In the beginning, before the foundations of the earth were laid and time as we know it began, there existed the celestial realm, a domain of unspeakable glory and divine perfection. The heavens resounded with the melodies of eternal worship, and every being within this realm lived in harmony with the Creator's will. This was no ordinary existence. It was a reflection of God's infinite glory, a realm pulsating with His light, His wisdom, and His unyielding love. At the center of this divine order was the throne of God, a radiant seat of power encircled by an emerald rainbow. Revelation 4 verse 3. From this throne flowed rivers of living water, their brilliance illuminating the crystal-like expanse beneath. Revelation 22 verse 1. Surrounding the throne were seraphim and cherubim, their 6 wings veiling their faces and feet as they cried out unceasingly, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, and is to come." Isaiah 6 verse 3, Revelation 4 verse 8. These celestial beings, created to worship, served as the guardians and messengers of divine will. Among them stood one who was unlike any other. Lucifer, whose very name means lightbringer, was the pinnacle of created beings. Ezekiel's prophecy spoke of him as the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Ezekiel 28 verse 12. His form was adorned with precious stones, sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, crafted into a radiance that reflected the Creator's splendor. He was anointed as the guardian cherub, dwelling on the holy mountain of God and walking amidst fiery stones, basking in the glory of divine presence. Ezekiel 28 verses 14 to 15. Lucifer's role was one of extraordinary privilege and responsibility. As a leader among the heavenly hosts, he directed worship toward the Almighty, orchestrating anthems of praise that filled the heavens. His voice, like the sweetest melody, resonated through the realm, leading choirs of angels in adoration. He bore light itself, a living testament to the Creator's majesty. And yet, Lucifer was not merely a servant. He was a reflection of divine creativity and power. His beauty and wisdom were unparalleled, and his presence inspired awe among the heavenly hosts. He stood in the inner courts of God's glory, closer than most could imagine, entrusted with a position of honor that signified his Creator's love. But the beauty of heaven was not only in its sights and sounds, it was in its perfect order. Every being, from the seraphim to the lowest rank of angelic hosts, moved in harmony with God's purpose. Their unity was not one of compulsion, but of joy, for they delighted in the presence of the one who made them. Love flowed like a river through every heart, and worship was the language of their existence. It is within this backdrop of radiant harmony and divine perfection that the story begins. For in this realm, where every being was designed to glorify the Creator, a seed of discontent was about to be sown. And it would come from the most unexpected of sources, the Lightbringer himself. Lucifer's beauty was a masterpiece, his wisdom unparalleled, and his position exalted. But even within the perfection of heaven, a mystery began to unfold, a mystery of iniquity, born in the heart of the one who was once the brightest reflection of God's glory. What could corrupt a being so close to the divine? The answer lies in pride, a silent, insidious force that turned a heart once full of light toward darkness. At first, it was but a fleeting thought, a passing admiration for his own radiance. Lucifer, gazing upon himself, saw not the reflection of his Creator, but his own splendor. The precious stones that adorned him sparkled with brilliance. His voice, like a symphony, echoed with unmatched power. But instead of offering glory to the one who had made him, he began to relish the glory for himself. The words of Ezekiel resonate with chilling clarity. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. Ezekiel 28 verse 17. This self-admiration grew, taking root deep within him. He began to believe that his light was his own, not a gift from the Creator. His heart whispered, "Why should the glory flow through me and not to me? Why should I, who am so exalted, not ascend even higher. These thoughts, though silent, began to shape his desires. Pride is a deceptive force, for it blinds even the wisest to the truth. Lucifer, the bearer of light, became enamored with the idea of ascending beyond his God-given place. It was then that ambition gave way to rebellion in his heart. "I will ascend to heaven, above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high," he thought. "I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14 verses 13 to 14. These were not mere thoughts of self-improvement. They were declarations of war against the Creator's sovereignty. He sought not equality with God, but supremacy. This shift in Lucifer's heart marked a profound departure from his purpose. Worship, once his joy, became a burden. Service, once a delight, turned into resentment. The melodies of heaven, which once inspired him, now seemed hollow, for his heart no longer sang in harmony with the divine. Instead, his soul echoed with a singular refrain: "I deserve more." Pride does not act alone. It seeks allies. And so Lucifer began to influence others. His words were subtle, cloaked in the guise of enlightenment and liberation. Why should we serve when we could reign? Why bow to another's glory when we could claim our own? Do we not possess power, wisdom, and beauty? Slowly, these seeds of rebellion spread among the angelic hosts. Some, captivated by his charm and persuaded by his reasoning, began to question their roles. They too longed for more. Yet, for all his cunning, Lucifer underestimated the cost of his pride. For in turning away from God, he turned away from the very source of his existence. Pride, though it promises elevation, leads to a fall. The book of Proverbs declares, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before fall." Proverbs 16 verse 18. But Lucifer, consumed by his ambition, could not see the abyss awaiting him. The tragedy of Lucifer's pride lies not only in his rebellion, but in what it reveals about the nature of sin. Sin begins not with actions, but with the heart. It whispers lies, that we are self-sufficient, that we are deserving of more, that we are our own masters. And like a spark in dry grass, it spreads, consuming all it touches. Lucifer, the pinnacle of God's creation, was now on a path that would not only lead to his downfall, but to the devastation of many. God, in his omniscience, saw the pride festering within Lucifer. Yet he did not act immediately. Divine patience allowed Lucifer's rebellion to mature, for the Creator's judgment is always just and measured. The heavens, once filled with harmony, now bore the tension of an impending conflict. For pride cannot coexist with humility, and rebellion cannot stand in the presence of divine holiness. Lucifer's transformation from the light-bringer to the adversary was not a sudden event, but a gradual descent. It began with a thought, grew into pride, and finally manifested in rebellion. This progression serves as a solemn reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and self-worship. In this moment, Lucifer still stood within the courts of heaven, still adorned with beauty and radiance. But his heart was no longer aligned with the divine. The light that once shone through him was dimmed by the shadow of his pride. He had chosen a path that led away from God, and though he could not yet see it, his fall was imminent. The celestial harmony that once defined heaven began to falter. Among the countless angelic hosts, whispers grew louder, rumors of a challenge, an insurrection. Lucifer, the light-bringer, no longer satisfied with his exalted position, had planted seeds of rebellion. What began as a solitary pride now spread like a wildfire, consuming the hearts of those who listened to his words. Lucifer's eloquence was unmatched, his beauty a testament to the Creator's craftsmanship. When he spoke, angels paused, captivated by his charisma. Yet beneath the allure of his words lay a dark ambition. Why must we serve when we are capable of ruling, he would ask. Does not our splendor rival the stars? Should we not ascend higher, to a throne that reflects our true glory? His arguments appealed to the pride latent within those he addressed. One by one, they began to question their roles. Why should God alone command such worship, they wondered. Are we not worthy of reverence as well? Lucifer's rebellion was no longer his alone. It had become a movement. Revelation 12 verse 4 speaks of the angels who followed him. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. These stars, a poetic reference to the angels, now aligned themselves with their new leader. Lucifer's boldness grew as his following expanded. His once private musings now became public declarations. Standing before his gathered followers, he proclaimed, "I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." Isaiah 14, verse 14. The audacity of such words shook the heavenly realm. Lucifer was no longer content to reflect God's light. He sought to replace him. But rebellion in heaven could not go unnoticed. The Creator, in his infinite wisdom, allowed Lucifer's plans to unfold, exposing the darkness within him. Yet, God's patience was not a sign of weakness. It was a demonstration of his justice, allowing the rebellion to manifest fully before judgment fell. Among the loyal angels, a champion emerged. Michael, whose very name means "who is like God," stood as the defender of divine sovereignty. Unlike Lucifer, Michael's strength was not in his own power, but in his unwavering allegiance to the Almighty. Revelation 12 verse 7 recounts, "Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon." The confrontation between Michael and Lucifer was inevitable. What had begun as a battle of words now escalated into a celestial war, the likes of which the universe had never witnessed. Lucifer, confident in his beauty and cunning, underestimated the power of those who stood firm in their devotion to God. His rebellion was not merely a challenge to authority. It was a direct assault on the very order of creation. As Lucifer rallied his forces, Michael called upon the loyal angels. "Who is like our God?" he cried, his voice echoing through the heavens. His words were a rallying call, reminding the faithful of their purpose. They were not created for their own glory, but to serve the one who is holy, eternal, and just. The lines were drawn, and the stage was set for a battle of unimaginable proportions. Heaven, once a realm of perfect peace, now became a battlefield. The clash was not merely physical. It was a spiritual struggle, a war between pride and humility, rebellion and obedience, darkness and light. Lucifer, now referred to as the dragon in prophetic vision, marshaled his forces with cunning strategy. His followers, driven by their shared ambition, fought with ferocity. Yet they could not match the power of those who fought under the banner of God's truth. Michael and his angels, though outnumbered, were empowered by divine strength. The battle raged on, with the heavens themselves trembling at the conflict. Stars seemed to flicker, their light dimmed by the chaos. The sound of clashing forces resounded, a symphony of war unlike anything the universe had heard. Yet, amidst the turmoil, one truth became clear: Lucifer's rebellion, no matter how fierce, could not prevail against the Creator's will. Revelation 12 verse 8 declares, "But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven." Lucifer's pride, though it had inspired rebellion, was not enough to sustain victory. His forces faltered, their resolve weakening in the face of Michael's unyielding faith. The climax of the battle came when Michael confronted Lucifer directly. The two, once companions in worship, now faced each other as adversaries. Lucifer's beauty and wisdom were overshadowed by his ambition, while Michael's strength shone as a testament to his humility and devotion. "Who is like God?" Michael declared, his words a piercing reminder of the rebellion's folly. Lucifer fought with all the fury of one who had everything to lose. His attacks were relentless, his strategies cunning. Yet he could not overcome the power of truth. For all his brilliance, He had underestimated the Creator's might and the loyalty of those who served him. In the end, the battle was not won by force alone, but by the unwavering allegiance of Michael and the loyal angels. Lucifer and his followers, though they had sought to ascend, were cast down. Their rebellion, born of pride, had led only to humiliation and defeat. The heavenly war came to a close, but its consequences were eternal. The once harmonious realm bore the scars of conflict, and the light-bringer was no more. Lucifer, now stripped of his radiance, faced the judgment of the one he had sought to defy. The skies of heaven, once serene and radiant with the light of God's presence, were now darkened with the clamor of war. Angels, beings of unimaginable glory, stood divided, some loyal to the Creator, others seduced by the rebellion of Lucifer. The battlefield was vast, stretching across the realms of the heavens, and the conflict was not merely one of strength, but of ideology. The sovereign will of God versus the pride-fueled ambitions of his most radiant creation. Lucifer, now the dragon, led his followers with a voice of commanding authority. His words, though twisted, were persuasive, and he painted his rebellion as a fight for liberation. This throne, he roared, should be shared among those of power and wisdom, not hoarded by one alone. Are we not deserving of glory? Are we not creators in our own right? His words inspired a frenzy among his followers, and they rallied to his side. 1/3 of the angels had chosen to align with him, their light dimmed by their lust for autonomy and power. Revelation 12 verse 4. Their faces no longer reflected the glory of God, but bore the mark of defiance. Armed with celestial might, they prepared for a confrontation they believed they could win. On the opposing side stood Michael and the loyal angels, a host whose allegiance to God was unshakable. Michael, whose very name declared, who is like God, was not merely a warrior, but a herald of divine truth. His rallying cry resounded through the heavens, "Stand firm, children of light, for we fight not for ourselves, but for the glory of the Almighty." No shadow can overcome the light of his presence. The battle began with an intensity that shook the foundations of the heavens. Brilliant beams of light clashed with shadowy bursts of dark power as angels wielded the weapons of their spiritual essence. Their forms, radiant and fearsome, moved with the speed of thought, creating streaks of glory and darkness across the celestial expanse. Each strike carried the weight of their convictions, and the heavens themselves groaned under the magnitude of the conflict. Lucifer, with his cunning mind and commanding presence, led his forces with precision. He targeted the weaker ranks of Michael's host, seeking to break their resolve. His strategies were ruthless, exploiting every opening and weakness he could find. But Michael, a paragon of faith and strength, countered with a calm, unwavering resolve. His leadership was not born of ambition, but of complete submission to God's will, and this gave him a power Lucifer could never understand. The clash between Michael and Lucifer became the centerpiece of the battle. Michael, wielding the authority of heaven, stood firm against the dragon's relentless assaults. Lucifer's strikes were fierce, his form radiating with the remnants of his former glory, but they were met with the unyielding shield of divine truth. Michael's voice thundered, "Your pride blinds you, O light-bearer. Do you not see? You fight not against us, but against the one who gave you life." Lucifer's response was venomous, his voice a mixture of rage and desperation. "You speak of submission as if it is strength, but strength lies in freedom, in claiming what is ours. I will not bow, nor will I yield." Their duel was a storm of power and light, each blow resonating with the clash of opposing ideologies. Michael, empowered by his humility and dependence on God, held firm, while Lucifer, driven by his pride, began to falter. The very heavens seemed to mourn as they witnessed the fall of one who was once the brightest of them all. Meanwhile, the ranks of the loyal angels fought valiantly, their unity and purpose an unbreakable force. Though they were outnumbered, They stood resolute, their strength drawn from their Creator. They did not fight for their own glory, but for the restoration of the divine order. Their shouts of praise to God filled the air, drowning out the cries of rebellion. Lucifer's forces, despite their initial fervor, began to weaken. Their rebellion, built on pride and self-interest, could not sustain the unity required for victory. Fissures appeared in their ranks, as some began to question the wisdom of their rebellion. The light of truth, emanating from Michael and the loyal angels, exposed the lies that Lucifer had used to ensnare them. Revelation 12 verse 8 captures the turning point, but they were not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. Lucifer's forces, despite their determination, could not prevail. Their power paled in comparison to the might of the Creator, who upheld the loyal angels with his strength. The rebellion, once so bold and confident, now crumbled under the weight of its futility. The final moments of the battle were marked by a dramatic confrontation. Michael, with a cry of triumph, struck a decisive blow against Lucifer, and the dragon was cast down. Revelation 12 verse 9 declares, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him." As Lucifer fell, the heavens themselves bore witness to the tragedy of his rebellion. The light-bearer, who once reflected the glory of God, was now shrouded in darkness. His beauty, wisdom, and power, once used for worship, had become tools of defiance. He had sought to ascend to the highest heights, yet his pride had led him to the lowest depths. The loyal angels stood victorious, their faces radiant with the light of God's glory. They had not fought for themselves, but for the preservation of the divine order. Their victory was a testament to the power of humility and obedience, qualities that Lucifer had scorned. Yet even in victory, there was sorrow. The heavens mourned the loss of those who had chosen rebellion. The harmony of the celestial realm, though restored, bore the scars of the conflict. The rebellion had revealed the dangers of pride and the cost of disobedience. As the dust of battle settled, the Creator's voice echoed through the heavens. It was a voice of both judgment and mercy, declaring the triumph of good over evil. The celestial war had ended, but its consequences would ripple through the ages. Lucifer, now Satan, and his followers had been cast down, their rebellion crushed. Yet their story was not over, for they would go on to wage war against humanity, seeking to spread the seeds of pride and rebellion on earth. The heavens, though scarred, shone once more with the light of divine order. The angels, united in worship, lifted their voices in praise, their hearts filled with gratitude for the victory that had been won. And though the rebellion had been a tragedy, it served as a reminder of the Creator's justice, mercy, and unshakable sovereignty. The moment of judgment had arrived. Lucifer, the radiant lightbringer, now cloaked in rebellion, and his host of fallen angels stood defeated. The heavens, once echoing with the harmonious songs of worship, now trembled as they bore witness to the culmination of this tragic rebellion. The Creator, righteous and just, declared the ultimate decree. Lucifer and his followers would be cast out of the heavenly realm, banished forever from the presence of divine glory. Jesus later described this event to his disciples with words that captured its dramatic finality. "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Luke 10, verse 18. This fall was not a gradual descent, but a cataclysmic expulsion, as swift and decisive as a bolt of lightning splitting the sky. The angels who had chosen to align themselves with Lucifer were dragged into his fate, their rebellion sealing their doom. Lucifer, who had once stood in the inner courts of God's glory, was hurled out of heaven, his brilliance extinguished. No longer the light-bearer, he became the prince of darkness, his name changed to Satan, meaning adversary. His appearance, once a reflection of God's splendor, now bore the twisted mark of his pride and fall. The radiance that once inspired awe was replaced with a shroud of despair, and his heart, once filled with worship, now burned with hatred and vengeance. As he fell, the heavenly hosts gazed upon the scene with a mixture of sorrow and righteous vindication. Revelation 12 verse 10 captures the proclamation that followed. Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. This was not just a judgment against rebellion. It was a declaration of the sovereignty and justice of the Almighty. The expelled angels, now demons, followed their leader into the abyss. They had traded the light of heaven for the darkness of rebellion, and their eternal separation from God was their reward. The heavens mourned the loss of these once glorious beings, created to reflect the Creator's majesty, but now forever removed from his presence. As Lucifer and his followers plummeted, their destination was not the eternal lake of fire. That final judgment was yet to come. Revelation 20 verse 10. Instead, they were cast down to the earth, a realm where their influence would corrupt and deceive. Their fall brought an ominous presence to creation, as the adversary sought to mar the works of the Creator and drag humanity into his rebellion. The expulsion marked a turning point in cosmic history. The celestial realm, though scarred by the rebellion, was once again filled with light and harmony. The loyal angels, having fought valiantly under Michael's leadership, now resumed their roles as messengers, protectors, and worshipers. Their victory was not just a triumph of strength, but of allegiance to the one who was above all. Yet, the heavens were not untouched by grief. The rebellion and subsequent expulsion were a stark reminder of the danger of pride and the high cost of disobedience. Even amidst the celebration of victory, there was a solemn understanding that the rebellion had left a mark, one that would echo throughout eternity. The Creator, in his infinite wisdom and justice, had allowed the rebellion to unfold. This act of patience revealed the depths of his character. He did not act hastily, but allowed the rebellion to reach its fullness, so that his judgment would be righteous and undeniable. The expulsion was not only a punishment, but a demonstration of the consequences of turning away from the source of life. Lucifer's rebellion also served as a cautionary tale for the loyal angels. They had witnessed firsthand the devastating power of pride and the destruction it brought. Their allegiance to God was now tempered with a deeper understanding of his holiness and justice. The heavenly worship that resumed after the rebellion was not just a return to order, but a renewed and profound declaration of God's greatness. For Lucifer, now Satan, the expulsion was the beginning of his role as the great deceiver. Stripped of his place in heaven, he turned his focus to earth, determined to corrupt and destroy what God had created. His hatred for the Almighty drove him to become the adversary of humanity, the accuser, and the father of lies, John 8 verse 44. His pride, though it had led to his fall, now fueled his relentless quest to oppose God's plan. As the dust of the rebellion settled, the heavenly realm stood as a testament to God's unshakable sovereignty. The expulsion of Lucifer and his followers was a victory not only for the loyal angels, but for the divine order itself. The heavens resounded with the proclamation of God's triumph, a song of worship that echoed through eternity. Hallelujah! For the Lord our God, the Almighty reigns. Revelation 19 verse 6. Yet, the story was far from over. Though Satan had been cast down, his influence would soon be felt on earth. His rebellion, though crushed in heaven, would manifest in new and insidious ways among humanity. The expulsion of Lucifer marked the beginning of a cosmic struggle that would span the ages, a battle between good and evil, light and darkness, obedience and rebellion. The Creator's plan, however, remained unshaken. For even in the midst of rebellion and expulsion, his ultimate purpose was unfolding, a plan of redemption that would restore what was lost and bring creation into perfect harmony once more. The fall of Lucifer was not the end of the story, but the beginning of a divine narrative that would reveal the depths of God's justice, mercy, and love. With Lucifer's fall, the stage was set for a new battleground, Earth. No longer able to corrupt the heavens, he turned his cunning toward the pinnacle of God's creation, humanity. The serene beauty of the Garden of Eden, with its lush trees and flowing rivers, became the scene of Satan's first act of defiance against God's plan on earth. The serpent, a vessel for Satan's deceit, slithered through the garden, his movements silent and calculated. He approached Eve with words that were both alluring and treacherous. Did God actually say, "You shall not eat of any tree in the garden"? Genesis 3 verse 1. His question was subtle but deliberate, designed to sow doubt in the heart of humanity. Eve, drawn into the serpent's web of deceit, hesitated before responding. She recounted God's command. They could eat of every tree except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for to eat from it would bring death. Genesis 3 verses 2 to 3. But the serpent, his voice smooth and persuasive, countered with a lie that would forever alter the course of human history. You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3 verses 4 to 5. This was the same seed of rebellion that had taken root in Lucifer's heart, pride, the desire to ascend and claim equality with God. Eve, captivated by the thought of divine wisdom, looked at the tree again. It was beautiful, its fruit enticing. And so, she reached out, plucked the fruit, and ate. Adam, standing beside her, did the same. In that moment, the harmony between humanity and God was broken. Satan's influence had succeeded. Through his cunning, he had introduced sin into the world, severing the intimate relationship between Creator and creation. The consequences were immediate and profound. Shame, a foreign emotion, washed over Adam and Eve as they realized their nakedness. They hid from God, their once unbroken fellowship replaced by fear and guilt. Genesis 3 verses 7 to 10. God's voice rang through the garden, filled with sorrow and authority. He pronounced judgment on the serpent. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Genesis 3 verse 15. This was the first prophecy of redemption, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Though Satan had struck a blow, his ultimate defeat was foretold. From that day forward, Satan assumed the role of the father of lies, John 8 verse 44, and the adversary of humanity. He prowls the earth like a roaring lion, seeking to devour. 1 Peter 5 verse 8, planting seeds of doubt, pride, and rebellion in the hearts of men and women. His tactics are insidious, exploiting human weaknesses to turn them away from God. Throughout history, Satan's influence has been evident. From the pride of Babel to the treachery of Judas, his fingerprints are found in every act of rebellion against God. Yet, for all his schemes, he remains a defeated foe. His power is limited, his plans subject to the sovereign will of God. For humanity, the impact of Satan's deception is deeply personal. Sin has become an inescapable reality, a burden that weighs heavily on every heart. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Romans 3 verse 23. Yet, even in the midst of this fallen state, God's grace shines brightly. Through Jesus Christ, the promised offspring of the woman, humanity is offered redemption and restoration. Satan's ongoing role as the accuser is highlighted in the book of Job, where he stands before God, challenging the faithfulness of his servant. Does Job fear God for no reason? Satan asks, seeking to undermine the integrity of human devotion to the Creator. Job 1 verse 9. Yet, even in this, God's sovereignty prevails, demonstrating that Satan's power is always subordinate to divine authority. For believers, the knowledge of Satan's schemes serves as both a warning and a call to vigilance. Put on the whole armor of God, Paul exhorts, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. Ephesians 6 verse 11. This armor, truth, righteousness, faith, salvation, the Word of God, and prayer, is the believer's defense against the adversary's attacks. Despite Satan's continued efforts, the cross of Christ stands as the ultimate declaration of his defeat. Through his death and resurrection, Jesus disarmed the powers and authorities, making a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. Colossians 2 verse 15. The impact of Satan's rebellion, though devastating, is not the final word. God's plan of redemption offers humanity a path back to fellowship with him, a way to overcome the effects of sin and the adversary's lies. Satan's influence on humanity is undeniable, but so too is God's unrelenting love. Even as the enemy seeks to destroy, the Creator works to restore. The battle between good and evil continues, but the outcome has already been determined. Satan's rebellion, his fall, and his impact on humanity all point to the ultimate triumph of God's justice and grace. The story of Lucifer, from his glorious beginnings to his tragic fall, culminates in the ultimate triumph of God. Though Satan's rebellion has brought pain and darkness to humanity, it will not last forever. The Bible is clear. There is a day appointed when the forces of evil will be defeated once and for all, and divine harmony will be restored. The final chapters of Revelation paint a vivid picture of this ultimate victory. The scene unfolds in dramatic fashion, with Satan, the deceiver, brought before the Almighty to face his eternal fate. Revelation 20 verse 10 declares, "And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." This moment is not merely an act of judgment, but a vindication of God's righteousness. Satan, who sought to usurp the throne of God and lead humanity astray, is utterly defeated. The lake of fire is not just his punishment, it is the end of his influence. No longer will he prowl the earth, deceive the nations, or accuse the faithful. His rebellion, once so bold and defiant, will be silenced for eternity. The imagery of Revelation captures the magnitude of this victory. The armies of heaven, led by the Lamb, march forth in triumph. The one seated on the white horse is called faithful and true, and his robe is dipped in blood, a reminder of the price paid for humanity's redemption. Revelation 19 verses 11 to 13. His name is the Word of God, and with a sharp sword from his mouth, he strikes down the nations, bringing justice to the earth. Revelation 19 verse 15. Satan's defeat is not only a cosmic event, but a deeply personal one for believers. For those who have endured his temptations, lies, and accusations, his downfall is a moment of profound relief and joy. No longer will the faithful need to stand guard against his schemes or wrestle with the effects of sin. His reign of terror will be over, replaced by the eternal reign of God. With Satan cast into the lake of fire, the final enemy, death, is also defeated. Revelation 21 verse 4 offers a vision of the world to come. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. The brokenness of the world, a result of Satan's rebellion, is healed. Creation is restored to its intended glory, and humanity is reunited with its Creator. The new heavens and the new earth are unveiled, a place where God dwells with his people. The holy city, the New Jerusalem, descends from heaven, shining with the glory of God. Revelation 21 verses 2 to 3. The radiance of his presence fills the city, and there is no need for sun or moon, for the Lamb is its light. Revelation 21 verse 23. This is the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise, a world where his glory is fully realized and his people live in eternal peace. The final victory is not just a conclusion to the story, but a celebration of God's character. His justice, holiness, mercy, and love are displayed in full. The rebellion of Satan, though tragic, serves as a backdrop against which the glory of God shines even brighter. Through his triumph, the Creator demonstrates that no force, no matter how powerful, can thwart his will. For believers, the promise of this victory provides hope and strength. It reminds them that the struggles of this life, the battles against sin and the adversary, are not in vain. The cross has already secured the outcome, and the resurrection guarantees the final triumph. As Paul writes in Romans 16 verse 20, the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. And so, the story of Lucifer, from light to darkness, ends with the glory of God. The Creator's plan is fulfilled, his justice satisfied, and his love magnified. The heavens and earth, once scarred by rebellion, are made new, and the cry of victory resounds through eternity. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. Revelation 5 verse 12. Good has triumphed over evil, light over darkness, and the Creator reigns supreme forever.